Hey, what's up everybody? This is Nightwing2303 from kicksoncourt.com. Today I have performance topic number 2, and this time it is going to be outdoor versus indoor as far as the court and surface goes. So without wasting any more of your time, let's go ahead and get right into it. So basically, I get tons of questions asked by you guys about, will this shoe be good for outdoors, and how long will it last outdoors, and all of this other kind of stuff about outdoor. Around my area, I actually have options to where I can play indoor or I can play outdoor, and I choose to play indoor just because I can fully play to my capabilities and my style of play, whereas I move a little bit too fast and a little bit too light on my feet for outdoors most of the time, when the outdoor court is a smooth surface, like that tennis court kind of surface, because usually the traction on my shoes can't quite keep up with it when there's dust involved. So I personally prefer to play indoors just because I can cut, I can move, I can cross and all that stuff exactly the way that I would normally, whereas every time I do that same move outside, I'm end up on the floor or something because like my leg gets swept from under me or whatever it is, because I just move real quick and real light. So but basically, as far as how long will a shoe last, I mean, literally there is no answer for that. It really depends on the amount of time that you use it, the type of rubber that's used, and how you move your feet. When you're on a basketball court, you're not supposed to be thinking about, you know, how you're moving your feet and things like that. But if you do happen to wear your shoes on and off court, there are a couple of tips that I can give you just right off the bat. I'm gonna put these over to the side real quick. But the first tip would be don't drag your feet. You can see the traction pattern here. Okay, the first thing that you usually get is heel drag, because a lot of people like to wear their shoes loose, or they just walk kind of lazy and like real nonchalant and all that stuff, so they'll drag their heels, and that grinds down the rubber back here. If you do walk real lazy, nonchalantly, and you drag your feet here, then you're going to most likely be dragging your feet at some point in time here. Whether it's just like you're stopping, like whatever it is you're doing, you're walking or whatever, and you just stop real quick and you just kind of like run your foot around on the floor like that, or just brush it across. Each time you do that, you're grinding down the rubber. It's very, very faint, very small. It takes a ton of time, but you are doing that, and eventually it will grind the rubber down more often than not. So for that type of stuff, I just recommend just, you know, work on your walking. I literally pick my feet up every time I walk, because when I was a kid, I'd only get one pair of sneakers all year round, and I just needed that pair of sneakers to last as long as possible. And if I drag my feet, I'd ruin the shoes quicker, and you know, they wouldn't last me as long, but I wouldn't get another shoe 6 or 8 months down the line. I have to wait until next year for the school season, like right before September. So that's my first tip. The second tip is you got to look at the rubber used on the shoes, if possible, as far as longer lasting goes. I don't know about other brands, but I know that Nike themselves, they have what's called XDR, and that is just extra durable rubber. The reason why I have these two shoes out right now is because these were both purchased from the same place. They were both purchased from airnight.com. Now, airnight.com, they get their stuff from Nike Store Hong Kong most of the time. And what happens is, because all the shoes that are over in Hong Kong, a lot of people that are buying them are outdoor hoopers, because that's pretty much all they do out there, is they just hoop outdoors. Now, what Nike does is they, like these guys here, were equipped with XDR rubber right off the bat. I didn't have to Nike ID them or anything. They just came with a tag that said XDR. I believe my KD4 year, the Dragons, were the same thing. They had XDR rubber and all that stuff. But then if I went and bought this same shoe in the US, it might not have XDR. And that's something that I'm not positive about. I don't know if this is just labeled as having XDR because it's out overseas, or if us US residents have XDR rubber, nobody actually knows because Nike's not claiming that it's XDR. I personally think that for Nike to do a run of this shoe right here with XDR just for Asia, and then a same shoe like run with non-XDR rubber for the US, I think that that is, for one, it's a waste of time, and it's a waste of money and effort on Nike's behalf. So I think that they're just not labeling it in the US as XDR. That's just my personal opinion. I'm not saying that that's fact or anything like that. This is what I assume. But anyway, so this is XDR. This shoe was also bought from Air, and this was not labeled with XDR, and you could literally feel that the rubber is really pliable, it's really soft, and all of that kind of stuff. There are additional areas that have, I guess, double traction with the squares inside of those triangle things, but you know, or diamonds or whatever. But overall, this shoe, like, it's not going to last as long outdoors as, say, this shoe. And it's not just because of the pattern itself. It's a couple of components. One is the rubber. This is just more pliable. Okay, this is like kind of like sturdy, like stiff rubber. The second thing is the thickness of the pattern. So you could see here that the thickness of each of these herringbone grooves, it's not crazy thick, but it's thicker than these really thin kind of wispy lines on this shoe. So if I was going to pick one of these two shoes to play ball in, it would be this one outside. This one I definitely use inside, just because that real pliable rubber is going to stick and add more friction to the court and indoors on a wood floor. So going back to the pattern itself, this is, again, these are just tips, and this is something that you should or could be looking for if you are an outdoor hooper. So these two shoes, they don't feature XDR. This shoe here is herringbone, and then this shoe here also is herringbone. If you don't know what these are the Zoom Soldier 3s. This is one of my favorite outdoor shoes, by the way. I really only play with these outdoors. But anyways, they both feature the same type of pattern, but you can see that one of them is very thin, and one of them is very thick, as far as like the pattern itself. So this one would last you longer than this one outside. So a lot of this is like common sense. You got to actually like look at it. Now, from my perspective, it's very rare for there to be a quote-unquote wrong shoe for outdoor play. However, there are some instances where the shoe itself just should not be played outdoors, either because the traction doesn't work at all outside in the environment versus a clean, debris-free, sticky kind of indoor court, or it's because the manufacturer or company has stated that you probably shouldn't wear these outside, which is like the example for this guy right here, the Crazy Light ones. They actually had like a sticker on them, or like a tag saying don't wear these outside, and it's because it's so thin. You know what I mean? Like, it's so thin, very pliable, all that stuff, super soft rubber, great for indoors. You wear this outside, it's going to grind down in a matter of days. And it's just because the thickness of each groove or line is literally like, it's thinner than like a coin. So you don't want to use this outside, because it's going to grind it down super fast, and then all you're going to be left with is smooth rubber. Now these guys here, probably one of the best tractions that's ever been available. There's plenty of options, but I say it's one of. Now these and the CB3 6s right here are two extremely comparable models as far as their traction goes. They're both super aggressive. They're literally like both perfect traction surfaces. I'd pick one over the other for outdoors based off of one fact alone. The fact that this rubber is just softer. That's it. This one, it's a harder rubber, it's a little more dense, and that's the only reason. This will work outdoors, it just won't last as long. This will work outdoors too, and it'll last a little bit longer than this one, just because it's a harder rubber. Now, as far as a pattern that just doesn't work at all outdoors, the Kobe 5 is a prime example, where there was so much space of the bottom of the shoe where it was missing traction because they took out a lot of that rubber to save weight, and then you had just kind of that heartbeat pattern. Very minimal traction. It worked fine inside. You do that outside. I tried it once and it was a huge mistake. Now these are all examples of 90s shoes. This is from my era when I grew up as a kid. These were all shoes where we did not think about playing inside or outside. We just played where we could play, whether it was inside or outside. And the shoes lasted us as long as however long they lasted us. You know what I mean? Like, we weren't keeping track, being like, yo, I got my penny 2s in January, it's already June and them things are messed up. Like, we weren't thinking about that. You know what I mean? Like, we were just like, yo, we're slipping a little bit, wipe your shoes, keep on playing. And that's all we were doing. So that would be my number one kind of tip is, if you're looking for longevity, you got to look at what I just talked about previously. If you are looking to just play basketball, just go out there and have fun, just buy a pair of sneakers that's nice, that you can play in, that you feel comfortable with. Try to get one that's got the best traction available, just like this guy, and this guy I'd probably use for outdoors along with this guy here. These ones, I just based off of look alone, I probably wouldn't want to try it unless it was a rough surface. So, but yeah, any of those three basically, besides these guys right here, I would have just bought them and I'd have just gone outside and played about it, and I wouldn't have thought about it or anything. I just play basketball. So I think that sometimes you guys think a little bit too much into things, and again, I understand that you need this shoe to last you a long time, but you know, like a runner, they have to go through their shoes roughly every like 3,000 miles or something like that. I could be wrong, I don't know the exact number, but it's roughly like every 3 to 6 months that a runner has to get new shoes, because they just wear the crap out of the sole, and then they're like running on foam. A basketball player doesn't do that necessarily. We have very, very specific and targeted sections that our feet are in place or used, and it's usually around this ball of the foot area, at the top of the toe, and then in the back of the heel. Okay, so real quick, I just want to talk about one more thing, and that would be the court's surface. This shoe is a very good example, because this shoe worked on all surfaces very, very well. Don't ask me how or why. I don't know if it was the rubber or if it was the traction, but whatever it was, these things worked, and that was the end of it. Now, inside, it's a controlled environment, so you play inside. You can pretty much be safe with almost any shoe. It's just that some shoes are going to perform better than others. So say the CP3.6 is going to perform better than this shoe in the traction department, but then this shoe would perform better than, say, the Kobe 5. You know what I mean? So, and I'm just talking about just straight traction. Now, you play with this outside on a smooth surface, you have not only a smooth surface, but then you have debris on top of it. So that's going to be between your foot, or the rubber itself, and the court itself. So there is a layer between the two of you, which is why you slide a little bit on movements. Third option would be a rough surface court, like a blacktop, something that you get at like an elementary school, or like a cheap kind of basketball court that is through somewhere in a park. Driveways, things like that, or streets, so like gravel and all that kind of stuff. That is, for one of the better surfaces, just because your feet are going to stick to it perfectly, even if there is debris, because there's different textures there to kind of grab and create friction on your shoe. However, that surface is probably the worst for your shoes, because it's got so much texture and all that stuff abrasing the rubber that it's going to grind the crap out of it until it's gone. So it's kind of like a double-edged sword, where it's the best outdoor surface to play on, but at the same time your shoes aren't going to last nearly as long as they would on a smooth surface or an indoor surface. So to sum things up, basically, you know, there are things that you could do to get the most out of your shoes if you play outside. The first one is just to kind of look at the patterns. Some patterns perform better than others. All three of these are really solid traction performers, and they all don't have the same kind of like pattern itself. These three do have herringbone, and then this one's got some weird design, and it just happens to work. The second thing would be is to check your rubber. How soft is that rubber? Is it XDR like this one, or is it just a really thick rubber like this one, so it will last you longer, or is it too soft like these two, and it'll just grind away very, very quickly, making that purchase not really worth it if you're only going to be able to play in them about, I don't know, like three months or so. The next thing would be just the court surface itself. Is it rough or is it smooth? You know what I mean? So the rougher the court, the more it's gonna, you know, ruin your rubber. Third thing is, stop thinking so much. Buy a good shoe with good traction, go outside and play basketball. Basketball is supposed to be fun. You're not supposed to think too much about it. You know what I mean? Like this shoe, I know that they could be expensive, 140 bucks or whatever, but if you only play outdoors and that's your only option, just buy the damn shoe and play in it. Have fun. It's basketball. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're going to get a new pair of shoes eventually, so you might as well just use these ones until you can and make the most out of it. But the main thing is, just get your butt off the couch and get outside and play. Just have fun. It's basketball. It is a game. Enjoy yourself. You know what I mean? Stop taking things a little bit too seriously unless you're that competitive of an athlete. And And if that's the case, then you should have a couple of different options, one for indoor only, one for outdoor only, and then maybe one for training and casual, or whatever it might be. So stop thinking, go out there, get a good solid shoe. You know, plenty of reviews. There have been reviews on all of these shoes here. Some of them performed better than others in, say, the traction department. Pick that shoe, alright, and just go out there and play. That's pretty much all you got to do. So thank you guys for watching. Thanks for all your support as usual, and make sure to stay tuned to my site, kicksoncourt.com, for all of your performance needs. And until episode 3, guys, have a good one.